Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to DotVVM Community Meetup. It's been a while since we had the last event because during the summer it was very difficult to schedule some time for the meetup, but hopefully from this month we should have these meetups like regularly every fourth Thursday in the month. So today I would like to share two things, two features on which we are still working on. None of them is complete. However, you will be able to see what we are working on right now. So these two things are the new version of extension for Visual Studio Code. And the second is a feature implemented by our colleague Milan, and it's about declaring properties of markup controls without those ugly and long code behind files. So I will be showing both features in just a few seconds. So let's start with the VS Code extension. Basically, .vvm supports the best support you can find in Big Visual Studio 2022 and 2019. We have Andre on this call who is maintaining these two extensions, and basically we are trying to get running on the latest update. So whenever Microsoft releases a new update of Visual Studio, we immediately get this version and recompile our extension based on the latest versions of Visual Studio 2022 and 2019. The problem is that Visual Studio is still changing some APIs in their libraries, and our extension needs these APIs. So whenever Microsoft changes signatures of some methods, our extension stops working. So we have to release our own a new build targeted to the precisely the same version of Visual Studio. So if you see that there is new version of Visual Studio, we recommend to go to .vvm documentation, like here, and navigate to the .vvm for Visual Studio and release notes section. And here you will see the latest release of our extension, and you can see if your version of Visual Studio is supported. Yeah, so it's good to check before you start updating Visual Studio. And also in the extension manager, you can check the automatic updates of the extensions, which is a thing that you might or might not want, because like sometimes it takes us a day or two until we release a new version. And if your .vvm for Visual Studio will get updated automatically, we may be one version late, so it may stop working. So I recommend to uncheck this checkbox, so you will be managing the version of .vvm and version of Visual Studio by yourself. If this is maintained by your corporate settings, then it's also good to ask them to, when they are pushing new version of Visual Studio, also to update the extension to the correct version. And we are offering direct download links for all the versions right here. So you can download and install the VSEX file manually. So that's about the full Visual Studio extension for Big Visual Studio. We have the free version, which provides basic IntelliSense and features like that. And we also have a full commercial version with more features, better IntelliSense, and things like that. For VS Code, we had an extension which was created like 4 or 5 years ago, but it wasn't very reliable. It couldn't detect a lot of controls which are available in your markup, so the IntelliSense wasn't complete, and we decided to start from scratch and make a new implementation. So we made several hackathons on the weekends, and my colleagues, they took basically the language server implemented for Svelte framework, because the Svelte team was doing on the we're doing pretty much similar thing that .vvm needs. So we get some inspiration by their implementation of language server, and we have implemented support for .vvm. It will not be as powerful as the extension for Big Visual Studio. However, it still will be much better than the old extension we had. The trick we are doing is that if you run your .vvm application in the debug mode, it will, on the startup, it will emit all the configuration and all metadata for this IntelliSense into this file. So we can look in this file. If you here in this sample project, if I do show all files, this icon, you can look at this JSON file, and you will see that we are basically dumping entire configuration of .vvm, including all the resources, all the things, all the controls we have in our and properties we have in our application, and basically that should be it. So here is the list of all controls, and the IntelliSense can take this information, and based on that, it can offer you all these hints when you are typing your code. So that's it. And we are still working on this feature. So you can see I'm not including .vvm as a package reference. From NuGet, I have cloned the repository from GitHub. I have to be in the correct branch, which is called serialized config controls. It's still a pull request, which we are just reviewing. It's not merged in the main code base, so it's not a NuGet. So I had to use .vvm from the source code, and it will emit this file in the new format, so the IntelliSense can pick it up. So if I open this VS Code, you can see that we have the syntax highlighting on the DOT HTML and DOT master files. So here I have like highlighted the names of controls. When you put the opening brace, you see that it like shows you all the controls we have in .vvm. If you, for example, go here and try to add, I don't know, some property, you can see we have wrapper tag name, render wrapper tag. So like it kind of works. We also, when you start typing a binding, we are offering the types of binding. What we are not doing is IntelliSense here on this place, because we would have to run .NET runtime and analyze your view models and look what properties are defined there. So like here we don't have anything, but we have the C# language syntax coloring. So even if you will write some expression like I'm wondering what we can use in bindings. If you have var e equals 15, so you can see that the syntax coloring works, because like this, we are telling the VS Code extension like this is C# this code snippet. So even things that should not be supported in data bindings are highlighted here. But it's not correct. Of course, you cannot declare classes in bindings, but because we are reusing the C# syntax coloring features, we can at least do the syntax highlighting. So it can be good, because if you will be using strings with these expressions, it will be behaving quite nicely, and it will do the syntax coloring for you. So that's our basic support. The extension is not published yet because it requires some version of .vvm which is not released, but we expect that since we released .vvm 4.1, then we will be also publishing this new VS Code extension. So if you don't have Windows PC, if you have a Mac or Linux, the extension should work there. It was quite interesting because we were using some parser which requires a native code, so we had to compile the extension for all platforms, for Windows, for Linux, and for Mac. And on Mac, you can have two processor architectures, like the classic Intel and the M1, which is ARM. And we have tested on both versions, and it was magically working. So we were quite happy that it was working fine. So that's the VS Code extension. It's still work in progress, so you will not find it on the marketplace. On the marketplace, you will still find the old version, which is not very stable, but we are working on that, and it's coming. So that's the Visual Studio extension. And let's jump to the next feature I have prepared, or to be precise, my colleague from the team, he was working on this feature for quite a long time because it wasn't so easy. So from .vvm 4.1, you will be able to declare properties of markup controls in the markup control file. Until now, you had to use the code behind, which wasn't very good because you have to go to like markup controls with code behind, and you basically needed to declare a C# class and specify the type here. And if you wanted to declare a property, you needed like 8 lines of code to declare one property. We shipped the code snippet so you could type .prop and press tab, and it would expand this code snippet, and you could like substitute this title here, the types here, and like on 10 places. So it was very easy to make a mistake there. And if you had a complicated control with 5 properties, like the code was very, very long. So it wasn't a very nice experience. And then you could access _control dot and name of the property, and you could pass these properties from the markup. So we tried to make the things simple. So instead of this code behind class where you would declare the properties, you can declare the property on the top of the markup file as a directive. So you can do add property, and you can specify the type of the property, name of the property, you can specify default value, and you can also specify attributes. So for example, if you don't want to allow the user to put data binding in this property, you can say comma, markup options attribute allow binding equals false. There is more usages. I will publish this presentation later on GitHub. But if you go to our code base, to the samples, there is feature samples for markup controls. You can see all the different syntaxes which are supported here. So you can even initialize arrays, and you can also define lambda expressions here. Please be careful about the syntax which is supported here. It's not like 100% on par with C# language, but you see there is quite a lot of things, including array initializers, that you can use here. And it can be also good for passing commands to the controls, because like you can just use this type command. So let's see my demo application. I've created some tiny application where you can buy hats for your snake. It wasn't my idea. I saw this on a conference I was speaking on recently, and then I found some blog posts about various hats for snakes. So if you have snake, you can buy him or make him any kind of hat. And in this simple application, I have this tile which shows some image, some title, some price, and there is some details button. And on this product details screen, I hope that my application is running, there is similar card, like still the image, title, price, but instead of the button, there is the description field. Yeah, so I would like to reuse this piece of code because it's similar, but it's not exactly the same. So what I need is to be able to use parameters in the control. So if I look at the default page, which shows the gallery of the awesome snake hats, so it's just a repeater, and here we have a card inside the repeater. So I have created my markup control, which contains the card itself. Yeah, so div class card, I'm using Bootstrap because I really like it. Here we have the image, it's cropping to 1.1 aspect ratio. I'm substituting image URL, title, card body, and the title price and things like that. What's interesting here that to pass data in the control, it's great to do it via the data context of the control. So all the information about the product I have in my product model class. So ID, title, price, image, URL, description. These are data for the controls, not the behavior. This is data. So it's good to say that control can be used only in this data context with this view model. So I can use it in this repeater because this is the collection of product models, and I can also use it here in product detail because I have the same model in my page 2. Yeah, so here I have set data context, so the control can be used in this scope. Yeah. But to pass behavior, like parameters, how the control should behave, what it should display, what it should do, this is the kind of thing you don't want to pass through the view model because the user will be able to, the user can change the view model. So the behavior of the control could be changed by data in the view model. So these things is good to pass via control properties. And that's what exactly what I'm doing here. So I have declared a property show description, and it's not bindable. So I cannot use data binding here. So as a developer of the page, I will say that on this place, I will have descriptions, on other place, I will not descriptions. And then I can use this just this paragraph, and you see included in page is only when this property show description on control is set to true. So this element will be visible only if I say show description equals true, and I cannot specify binding because it's disabled using this syntax. Then I have this show details button, which is controlling this button. And also I am just using control show details button here. So if this is true, the button will be displayed. So this is the way how you can very easily configure controls. And again, these are settings, how the control behaves, how it looks like. It's not data for the control, it's the behavior. So for this purpose, it's very good. And here I have details button text. You can specify the default value. So if the user doesn't say otherwise, the text on this link will be just details. Yeah. So here I'm just saying show details button equal true, but I'm not saying the details button text. That's why it is just details. But I can do it details. The IntelliSense doesn't support this right now, but we will be adding this feature in some other version, in some future versions. So right now I don't have IntelliSense, which is not very convenient, but what we can do, and I can do something like purchase for like price, and I can say N2. I hope this will work. Yeah, so yeah, so you can see we can use the data binding here. It would be better to show the currency here. So let's put C instead of N, and we will have these dollars here. Yeah, so you can see it's quite easy. I can pass bindings because by default, the property supports both values and bindings. Yeah, and when I click on this page, then it's the same control, but I'm using it with different properties. So you can see here is only show description equals true. That's why the description is here. The button is not here because I'm already on the details page. And the last thing, it's also you can choose if you want to use these parameters as a value binding or as a resource binding. If it cannot be binding, if it must be hard-coded value, then it means that you can use it as a resource binding here. So it's also quite nice. Yeah. So this is a feature which is already present in the latest public preview of .vvm. So if you want to start using it, you can download the latest version of .vvm from official NuGet, which is 4.1.0 preview 10 final. The feature is included here. We have still some bugs in this behavior. If you will be using the hot reload, you will probably be quite disappointed, because right now, when you do any change in this control with these properties, the hot reload will not be able to reload the page, and you will have to do rebuild of the entire application. This is what we are working on. We want to fix this, because the hot reload experience, we really got used to it. It's very nice, very convenient, but unfortunately, it still, this feature is quite big, so that's why there are a lot of other things which we still need to polish a bit. Yeah. So that's it for today. I don't have any more demos. It's good to see the community, and if you want to play with .vvm, visit our homepage, visit the documentation. We are working on the documentation for version 4.1, so all the new features will be documented. And of course, you can watch our progress on GitHub. You can look at the pull requests we have here. We will still be adding some features, but the release of 4.1 is quite ready to ship. So once we fix all the bugs and all the problems, then we will ship .vvm 4.1. We are also working on providing business pack version 4.1 and bootstrap packages at the same time. So when we publish .vvm 4.1, all our control packages will be also supporting this release. So that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask or contact us on our Gitter chat. We'll be happy to talk. And these meetups will be every month, every fourth Thursday in each month. And if you will go to the documentation, there will be a banner showing the time of the next meetup. So we will try to keep you posted here. So here you will see the banner, and you can add the reminder to your calendar. So thank you for the attention, and if you have any questions, here now is the time. Okay, it seems like there are no questions, so thank you very much, and see you on the next DotVVM meetup. I'll be happy to see you again. So thank you and take care.